I am doing a little bit of work to my 300 SD Mercedes-Benz. To upcoming videos, we are going to be working on building the injectors. So this is the second time I built injectors, or rebuilt injectors, on a Mercedes-Benz diesel. First time on this specific car. This particular engine is the OM617. Very, very good engine. I have no complaints. It's got turbo on it. Runs great. Currently has 134,000 miles plus or minus on it. So why am I rebuilding the injectors? It runs fine, right? It does run fine. So I've got really bad vibration. And when it's sitting idle, more specific when it's warm outside and it's idling, the engine will vibrate very badly. So at first I thought, well, I'll check into the engine mounts, because I was doing some reading online and checking mercedessource.com, and you know, he's like, well, you should check this, this, and this. So I thought, well, I'll do engine mounts first. I knew the engine mounts were in rough shape and original, and engine mounts are relatively cheap to buy, so that's what I bought. In the summertime, I replaced the engine mounts. I thought, yes, this is going to fix the problem. I started up. No, it helped, but it still was, the engine was vibrating at idle. It goes away at speed. You rev the engine past 1,000, smooths right out. Nothing wrong whatsoever. So I was doing a little bit more reading on mercedessource.com, and he says, well, it could be because you have your injectors are not balanced, and over time diesel engines, you know, they wear out. I mean, that's just, you know, things wear out, and the timing, it may be prematurely opening the injector, or you know, vice versa. So that's kind of like where we stand. I did all the stuff up front, you know, the mounts, you know, check that. I even ran the diesel purge through. It smoothed out a little bit, but still vibrates at idle. And it's not like it's bad. I mean, I live with it, but what I'm really concerned with was over time, you know, with the vibration, you know, things are rubbing, other things are going to break and wear out because of the additional vibration. So that's why we're going to go ahead and do this. Now, rebuilding the injectors is relatively straightforward, since I did it once before. The first time I did it, I was a little overwhelmed with it. Now, not too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the injectors. What I suggest that you do is label your injector lines, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, however you want to do it. Before you physically remove the injectors, you have to physically remove the black return lines. They're not always black, but in this case it's black cloth line. You remove it here, here, all the way down. And remove the return lines. So what we're going to do with the return lines, a couple. So, but needle nose pliers work too. You can just squeeze and kind of work them back and forth, and they come apart. This other one, just sort of grab it, twist it at the base, and pull. Twist and pull, and they should come up like that. Yes, there will be diesel fuel. It may make a mess, but that's part of the job. And then we'll just go. This is why the needle nose pliers come in good, because I don't think you could get any other type, specifically needle nose pliers with a little bit of a angle to them. These are 45. A pair of 90s would probably work perfect for this, but I don't have a pair. Sometimes you gotta work with Try not to get diesel fuel everywhere, but that's kind of what they look like. So it's a rubber hose with a braided exterior, and it's only held in, it's held in with a barb fitting on the injector. So nothing really complicated. You never want to start the engine up with these missing. You have diesel fuel everywhere. But just get the base, twist a little bit and pull. Twist and pull, just like that. And yes, you're gonna spill diesel. It's okay. It's an anti-rust agent. Right? I suggest if you have an older vehicle or these lines look really rough, to replace them. You can buy these lines. They're very cheap. Very cheap to buy, very cheap to replace. There's that one. Now something else that's very important here, I know you can't see what I'm doing anymore, is before you take out the injectors, out, this is something you should take a picture of. Get this out of the way. Take a picture of each of the injector bodies and where the return lines are. See how this first one is kind of crisscross like this? The second one's crisscross like this. This third one is like this. You know, what I mean by like this is there's the return hole, and the return hole is kind of slant. So remember, or take a picture of how they are. And in today's day and age, it's so easy to take a picture. So I'm going to work on removing the rest of these, and then the next part is going to be removing the hard lines. Okay, so now that we've removed the return lines, we get to remove the hard lines. So that is, on this engine, going to be a 17 millimeter. Now, you can use a, this is like a, oh crap, the special wrench where you can get in the lines, or you can use your standard combination wrench. You know, I work on both gas engines and diesel engines, this Mercedes, and I'll be honest, I rather deal with diesel fuel over gasoline any day. Gasoline has a very noxious smell to it that, we're almost there, that I just can't, it gives me a headache. But diesel, I think, since it's not as, the vapors aren't as, you know, gasoline's like always, you know, putting off a vapor even if it's cold outside. I think diesel doesn't do that. It's more oily, first of all. But I can handle, I don't mind diesel fuel on my hands. I mean, yeah, it's just as hard to get off as gasoline, but I don't know, I just rather deal. Okay, we're there. We're pretty much there, almost. A couple more threads. So that we're taking this whole thing off as a assembly. Will it install the same way? I hope it does, but I don't know. Okay, so here we are removing this, right? So we can do, you can see a little bit more into the engine now, or into the engine bay here. What we'll want to do is down here with the injectors, we'll want to cover this up so we don't get any contamination, no dirt in there. We can mop up some of the fuel that'll drip out. But what I'm really going to do is take a cloth here and just really cover it good. we'll cover it, and then what we'll do to help kind of like zip tie, just kind of zip tie in place here, just for the meantime. Get kind of down in there. Zip tied on a couple. Okay, so to remove the injectors, you need a socket, a deep socket. Looks like this. This happens to be an 1/1/16. And this will just slide over the whole thing. Make sure you get it all the way down. Work. So something you don't want to use on these is an impact wrench. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Broke loose. Let's go ahead and do this one right next to it. Make sure it's all the way down. And, okay. These are actually tightened to a specific torque, so I'm not surprised if it doesn't take a lot to actually break them. So kind of like a spark plug at this point, really. What you want to be careful with is, you know, and I should have said this beforehand, if you have any dirt, you know, sometimes, especially with gas engines, you know, with spark plugs, you know, I have the spark plug holes and dirt, you know, kind of falls down in there. This isn't too bad. This is actually raised and slanted, but I've done some where they're down in there. It's good to clean that out first before you take anything apart, just so dirt and stuff doesn't fall down in your cylinder. And oop, oh, diesel fuel wants to fall out of it. Okay. Now, something else to note, and I'll try to zoom into this so you guys can see this. Around the threads, there is this here. On some of them, 190D, we had like a plastic shroud around, and the purpose of the shroud was to help keep dirt and contaminants out, but that's not what this one is. So let's go ahead and work on number 2 here. So number 2, same thing, should just turn out. They turn out a bit hard, they're a little rusty, kind of like spark plugs. Really no difference, just bigger around, really. Once again, like always, be careful nothing falls down into the hole. And here's this one. So this one we're going to go and put in our box for number 2. Alright, so all the injectors have been removed. Now, all of them still have a washer in the bottom of them. I'm not going to remove that quite yet. Actually, that's the last thing I'm going to remove. The reason is because I'm gonna vacuum. So this hole looks pretty clean. This hole's got some crud in it. I don't know if you can see it. We're gonna get the vacuum out and vacuum that crud out. This hole, that's kind of wet. That hole, it's wet. So something that I thought I'd show is how I'm gonna vacuum this out. So I took a regular shop vac, and this is aluminum tape, which works good, but you can use like duct tape. And then I took a small piece of tubing, and I taped it to it like that. So when I'm sucking these out, I won't suck up those washers, but yet get in there real easy. So you saw there's suction. Hear it, plenty of it. was sucked clean.